It is Film Don't Lie on A2D Radio, and as always, we are brought to you by Alonzi Travel. We are live on A2D Radio. Like I said, I'm sorry. Alonzi Travel, specializing in creating the vacation of your dreams at Disney, Universal, or wherever your heart calls you. Reach out to get a quote and start planning. My email is at the bottom at the ticker. If you need it at any point, it is there for you to see. It's your boy Chucks. Like I said at the top of the show, we are live on A2D Radio. This is a Film Don't Lie. I am writing solo, at least for the time being, maybe for the duration of the show. Last minute technical difficulties from my co-host Pete Evans. So it's hit or miss whether he will join me. But as they say, show must go on. So I'm going to hit it strong and I'm going to fly it solo as I've done several times with you guys. But it's good to be on live again with all of you. If you're tuning in, thank you. And let's get into this. Let's get into this because the game of the weekend, we alluded to it last week. Rams Seahawks. It did not disappoint, at least from my point of view. I didn't think it disappointed at all. I thought it was an amazing game, very entertaining, a really close game, as we saw. Came down to a last second field goal attempt that Myers missed, and that was preceded. Big reason why he missed it, because it was preceded by a phenomenal punt that made the Seahawks have to drive the length from their 1 yard line. It was unreal, that punt by the I forget his name, the Rams kicker or Rams punter. I'm sorry, but yeah, that was such a great, phenomenal game. And so let's dive into it. And I know that it's unfortunate that Pete's not here because we wanted to get into a really, really good discussion about it and talk about it. And I know he had his thoughts, but I'll give my breakdown of it, watching the film of it. And let's start, obviously, the winning side. The Rams came out victorious, and the Rams, the main takeaway that you can take from their side, obviously, and I'm sure it's been talked about ad nauseum at this point, is how they forced 4 interceptions on Sam Darnold. And everyone's saying like, oh, there's the true Sam Darnold that came out. He's always been this type of quarterback. He's gonna turn it over and all that. And okay, that's fair because he has a reputation for a reason. But we do have to give credit. It wasn't like Sam Darnold did this out of his own free will against a bad defense, right? The Rams did an amazing job on him and making sure that he was uncomfortable pretty much the whole game. Excuse me, sneeze. So right off the bat, the Seahawks were in unfamiliar territory. They had to play from behind essentially the whole game, and that's a game script that they hadn't been used to, for most of the season. Most of the season they're either right there or they're ahead or an even game, but they didn't spend a lot of time trailing this season in most games. And so right off the bat, they're trailing 7-0 due to that interception, and it just from there it was just tough sledding for them. But from the Rams' point of view, they were the Rams D line, which obviously has been stellar throughout. The whole defense has been stellar throughout. The Rams D line really brought it to the Seahawks offensive line, who they're much improved since last year. I think we can all say that. But the Rams really gave them issues, especially with using like a lot of twists and stunts on that side, and then on the back end to complement that, the Rams DBs in the secondary, they were really aggressive and really timed their aggressiveness, jumping these passes very, very well with the pass rush. And when I get to the clips, you'll see examples of that. So they did a really, really good job. They kept using, a lot of different personnel packages, and they played a lot of dime in the second half to really like match what the Seahawks wanted to do and play catch up, and passing a lot. So to get to some of the stats coming out of that. So I already mentioned how Seahawks had to play a lot from behind. The Rams mostly played in terms of coverage. 28 plays of zone, 11 plays of man. So it was mostly zone coverage on there, which is not anything new. Played mostly cover four. They had 12 plays of cover four, 9 plays of cover one, 7 of cover three, and 6 of cover two. And then they had some other plays. I forget which ones, but like pretty much. So those are the dominant coverages you saw from them throughout the entirety of the game. So they did a good job mixing stuff up. Chris Shula has been all season been doing a great job of doing that. So Sam Darnold. So we talk about the Seahawks passing game, right? And I've mentioned in shows before, like they're doing awesome stuff from under center, and one of the things that they do is they tie in their passing offense and passing concepts, true drop back passing concepts with their under center game. Not a lot of teams do that. Like a lot of teams, when they go under center, they're either running the ball or they're doing play action off of it, right? But the Seahawks, they do a true drop back from under center. But that was, and I had said last week that the key for me was with this Seahawks offense, they were the best, the most explosive passing offense in the league coming into week 11. And the Rams did a really, really good job of bottling that up. So, they really made things uncomfortable for Darnold. So on Darnold, some stats here. Darnold on play action. So when he was able to access play action, a 9 of 10 for 74 yards. But when he was on non-play action plays, he was 20 of 34 and had 3 interceptions. So 3 of the 4 interceptions came on non-play action plays. Now Darnold, if I'm breaking up like the levels of the throws, Darnold on deep throws was 1 of 5 for 28 yards and 1 interception. So again, we talk about the league leading the league in explosive pass plays. Yeah, 1 of 5 for 28 yards and 1 interception on deep throws, which is 20 plus yards down the field. That's alarming. That's not going to get it done. Now, in intermediate throws, 2 of 6 for 33 yards and 2 interceptions. Again, not any better. Not any better there. So Darnold pushing the ball downfield was, he had a hard time doing that in this game. And, again, a lot of it was because of the pressure he was constantly seeing. And they were trying to do a lot of short passes to kind of like, mitigate that. But when they were trying to attack downfield, they weren't having a lot of success. 13 pressures by the Rams on 45 dropbacks, which is 28.9%. And when pressured, Darnold was 6 of 13 for 43 yards and 2 interceptions. So again, it's just they really made life difficult for him. And, he did look, as we'll see in the clips, he looked like, a lot of things say, like, a lot of people say, oh, he sees ghosts. He sees ghosts. I don't think it's so much that. For some of it's more so because it's not, when you see ghosts, when people say quarterbacks see ghosts, it's them panicking when the pressure isn't there. That's what seeing ghosts is. To me, it wasn't that. To me, it was Sam was getting pressured, and when he was getting pressured, that's when he was, making mistakes. So I think that's clarifying the difference between the two. It's easy to say he saw ghosts, but you have to know the difference. And I think that it wasn't so much that he saw ghosts; it was more so the Rams defense really did a good job rushing 4 and getting pressure with 4. And when they did, the back 7 was in sync on keying in on everything the Seahawks were trying to do. So kudos to that Rams defense. Now to flip it, even though, and I want to say this because I think it's getting lost too much in translation when it comes to the this game is that the Seahawks, in my opinion, the Seahawks defense was the most impressive of the game. And I know that might be alarming or like, really crazy to say, considering that the Rams defense came away with 4 interceptions. And I'm not trying to take anything away from the Rams defense, but if you consider the fact that the Rams did have those 4 interceptions and the Seahawks defense kept getting put in those difficult situations and tough field position. But it came down to the fact that the game came down to the last second field goal that could have won the game for the Seahawks. That speaks volumes of the job that the Seahawks defense did. And I can't say this enough that they played an outstanding game and they deserve to be recognized and respected for the performance they put out against the Rams, who are no slouch of an offense in themselves. So, the Rams, what they like to do, the Rams like to do 13 personnel on attack out of, those heavy packages. They've been doing that the past few weeks. So with that being the case, in 13 personnel, outside of the Rams, outside of the red zone, exception of, when it gets close to the red zone, when the Rams went 13 personnel, they only had a 17% success rate overall. And when it came to specifically the run success rate, it was only at 8%. And 6 of the passes went for 4 yards. Passes the ball 6 times for 4 yards out of 13 personnel. So they weren't able to tap into an aspect of their game that they had been leaning on the past couple of weeks. So that's a phenomenal job. The Seahawks defense, they only allowed 249 yards total, 130 yards passing, and 15 of 28, which is 53%, a completion percentage. Rushing yards of, average EPA allowed of negative 0.174. That is really good effort. So the average EPA that the Seahawks defense was giving up. They had 12 total pressures on 28 dropbacks, which is 42.9%. 42.9%, so 8 hurries. Along with the pressure. So 11 of them were blitzes, and they were able to get pressure on 6 of those 11 blitzes. 6 pressures without blitzing too. And then, shout out also to DeMarcus Lawrence. DeMarcus Lawrence was amazing. All over the field. He was probably if you're talking about standout players on the defensive side of the ball for the Seahawks, it was probably DeMarcus Lawrence who would give the game ball to there. Third down defense, they only allowed 2 of 11 on third downs. Phenomenal. Red zone allowed 3 touchdowns on 13 red zone plays. So yeah, and they did this by using mainly cover 3 and cover 1, and what they have been doing in weeks past is using Nick Emenwari as their nickel. So and essentially he's like a big nickel, and he was lining up. He had a lot of usage. He was lining up in the box, even on the edge, and you even had one snap, I believe, at outside corner. But most of his snaps came in the slot. So using him as the big nickel, and being the Seahawks being able to stop the run that way with Nick Emenwari, but with still not having to go to a base defense. When I talked about the Rams using 13 personnel, so phenomenal job by them, and them being able to dictate back to the Rams, hey, you're not going to be able to do this on us. You're not going to be able to pass on us when we go heavy. When you go heavy, we're going to stay in our big nickel and we're going to dictate to you what we want to do. And so they did an awesome job on that. So again, great stuff by both of these defenses. Seriously, like if there's anything you take away from this game, it's that they did a phenomenal job of keeping this game tight. And if you're looking at these two teams, and you're trying to come up with reasons why they are true contenders in out of the NFC, it's because of their defenses. And you talk about the Eagles too, obviously, who won a tight game against the Lions. They dominated against the Lions. Their defense. So it's so crazy to see that the top teams in the NFC right now are rolling in large part because of their defensive performance. So kudos to both of those sides. Greg Miller says Rams still have to play the Bucs, Seahawks, Lions, Panthers, Falcons, and Cardinals twice. Not a walk in the park left for the Rams. Yeah, they still have a tough schedule too. So we'll see how they're able to fare. And I'm excited because they still play the Seahawks a second time. So the rematch this time in Seattle is gonna be a lot of fun to monitor and to see how that goes. The last thing I wanted to touch on before I start to get to the clips, I had talked about how the Seahawks run game really is a struggling part of their offense right now. It's sort of the bottom of the league, and it's going up against a great Rams run defense. Going into that matchup in Week 11, the Rams were allowing negative 0.148 EPA per play to opposing running backs. Enter Kenneth Walker in Week 11, and he had 16 carries for 67 yards, 1 rushing touchdown. Actually, at the goal line, he actually got a rep at the goal line, even though they were in hurry up. 3 catches, 44 yards. So that's 111 scrimmage yards, and his EPA per play was 0.091. So that's a really good performance by Kenneth Walker. Unsuspecting performance against a really great defense, like I said. But again, I'm pushing this. I've been pushing it for weeks and weeks. He needs to be the lead. He needs more touches than what he's getting. And I know you're saying, hey, he had 19 touches this game. That's good. And the game script, sometimes will allow for that. But I still, and don't get me wrong, I still think Zach Charbonnet has to get touches. He's still a good running back. But I think when you're talking about how you're using these running backs in the rotation, it's still a huge problem. I think one of the big reasons why their running game is struggling is because the rotation to me doesn't make sense. There's no flow to it. There's not one subs in on random times and then they get subbed out at random times. These running backs they aren't able to get into a rhythm, and that's a big problem. So it's detrimental to both Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. So I think Kenneth Walker is clear as day to anyone who really watches that Kenneth Walker is the better running back of the two. I've been saying it for the longest. He's the most explosive weapon they have, and that's including JSN. Like JSN is it's him and Jonathan Taylor as my personal MVPs of the year. But when you're talking about just pure explosiveness, Kenneth Walker is their most explosive weapon. Well, I mean, Shaheed is there too. So I don't know. I guess that you can say Shaheed, but Kenneth Walker again is the more explosive running back between him and Charbonnet, and he needs to be used. He needs to be used more. He needs to get more touches than it can't be. I don't think the 50-50 split that they have going on is not smart, in my opinion. I think Kenneth Walker needs to get majority of the touches there, majority of snaps and majority of touches. So yeah. All right, let's get to some clips here. Let's get to. I'm going to break down the first 3 of Sam Darnold's interceptions, and let's get to the first one. So I have some graphics up here for you too as we go along, so you can see. Hold on. Let me get rid of this part. Thank you. All right. So let's start this over. So this is the first interception that Sam Darnold threw. It's beginning of the first quarter. The defense is going to be in cover 1 robber. Okay. And I highlighted the target, which is Cooper Kupp at the top of your screen. And then Cam Kinchins is the safety I want you to keep an eye on in here because he is the robber here. So you're playing cover 1, a robber, and it's a man coverage. So as you can see, the Rams DBs are man-to-man against the wide receivers. And as this plays out, they're matched up, right? So everyone is pretty much covered. You got hat on a hat to everyone, blah, 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 da, 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 da. There. Cam Kitchens right here, he's roaming, okay? He's going to play that robber role. So, again, I talked about that robber coverage, right, that a safety can play in one of the clips last week. And Kitchens here is going to have this area roughly between the 30 and the 35. Again, roughly. That's his area. Now, he's looking at Sam Darnold's eyes right now. All right, so he's checking out Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's looking to his left, looking to his left. Now, here, I'm going to pause it here. You see Sam Darnold have to be moved off his spot because of the penetration, right? And he's still staring down his receiver, Cooper Kupp. All right, so so Kitchen's going to see that. And as the robber, he has the free go to say, hey, I'm watching his eyes. I'm going to where I think this ball is going to go. And that's exactly what happens let me play it out. Sorry. Press forward. That's exactly what happens. He's going to see as he releases, he knows now that Darnold, who's backpedaling, he's throwing from, this is the fault is, again, it's not to say that he saw ghosts. Sam is seeing pressure in his face. He's getting off of his spot and he's throwing off platform, with off of his back foot now. Ill-advised. He's been staring down Cooper Kupp, and so he's trying to get this ball into there, and bad decision, and Kitchens is able to break on it, and that's a fairly easy interception for, you'll see from a safety playing cover one robber. So again, the fact that on this play, Sam stares down his receiver, gets pressure, and throws that ill-advised throw off his back foot is what Kitchens is able to break on and able to see. So that's what leads to that first interception. All right. So second interception that we have, this is now beginning of the third quarter. Okay. And I'm going to pause it here. We have JSN at the top. You got Kobe Durant at the top as well. The defense is going to be in cover 4. And I talked about quarters coverage last week when I broke down the Eagles game. All right. So cover 4, you have the DBs in a shell and they're playing quarters of the field. So Kobe Durant, the corner, is going to have the outside quarter of the field here. And this safety is going to have this quarter of the field here to his side. Smith and Jigba is going to run essentially like an out route, okay? So now let's pause it here. You see Sam Darnold in the pocket. This rusher comes through. I can't tell who that is, so I apologize. But he has pretty much a free rusher in his face. So he's getting rid of this ball earlier than he wants to. And because of that, remember what I had said about the Rams, DBs in coverage, they were breaking on the ball with perfect timing with the pass rush that was getting to Darnold. So with the pass rush here, that free rusher getting to Darnold and making him pull the trigger earlier than he wants to, now Kobe Durant's able to drive on that ball, get underneath the throw, and pick it off. Right? So quarters coverage this time is what gets the Seahawks. Again, going to play one more time. Kobe Durant, quarters coverage, reads the eyes, and then breaks on the ball perfectly as Sam gets pressure. That's the second interception that he throws. And then the last one, this is toward the end of the third quarter. The defense now is in cover 6. So what's cover 6? So cover 6 is kind of a hybrid of cover 2, cover 4. So in cover 6, you're usually going to have half of the field. So the top part of your screen, the defense is going to be running a cover 2 to that side. That's the passing strength, quote unquote. That's the side where Jackson Smith and Jigba is on. Now, the Seahawks are running 2x2, so there is no set passing strength. But usually, because you can see they are lined up at the right hash, and that makes this top part of the field the boundary side. Usually with cover 6, they run cover 2 the boundary side because the boundary side is usually where you have your best wide receiver lined up, to the boundary, and then the other side, your other wide receivers are there because they gives them more space to operate. So usually that's the tendency. So cover 6 here, you have cover 2 to the top side of the boundary side of the field, and then you have quarters to the other side of the field, to the field side, right? So as you play this out, Elijah Arroyo, who's the number 2 receiver to the formation, he's going to run. I guess you can say this is a post. I think this is a post. He's trying to run, and this is what happened. Right. So Elijah Arroyo is going to run this post. I guess you can call it a skinny post. I think, but because that that defender is going to, you see that second level defender, he's essentially going to force him outside, right? He's going to force him outside. Now, if you're here, this is what I believe. Now, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Darnold is probably, because if this is a post, Darnold is probably expecting Arroyo to break his post inside more and cross face with the safety, right? So with Kinchins being back here, when you run that post, you want that receiver to cross face and get more to the center of the field. But because Arroyo gets jammed and forced, his leverage is taking him to the outside of his route, he's not able to get to cross face with Kinchins. And because of that, Kinchins is able to, again, break on this ball, get underneath that throw, and pick it off. So that's what leads to the third interception. It's the mix in coverages. That's the strength of the cover six, is being able to have help to that one side of the field, and give help, safety help over the top. So awesome stuff here by the Rams defense to be able to, again, get pressure. Well, let me see. I don't think, forgot to cover that part. Let's see if there was pressure in Sam's face. No, he had a clean pocket there. I think this is just a case where I do think he was expecting Oreo to cross face with him, but he didn't. So, and I'm not blaming it solely on Arroyo. Again, with Darnold, to a degree, does he have to be more careful? Yes. But again, this is, I will go out on a limb and say this isn't all on Sam Darnold. This is partly on Arroyo too, not being able to cross face on this post route and get across face with the safety. So those are the 3 interceptions of the day for Sam Darnold. It was a rough day, 4 interceptions total, but I will say they meet again in a couple weeks, I believe. I forget which week it was, but that rematch is coming up, and it's in Seattle. I'm eager to see what adjustments, both sides, but mainly how different this can play out. Because again, you're talking about 4 interceptions, 4 turnovers, and the Seahawks still almost won this. They were a 61, I believe, 61-yard field goal away from winning this game still, even with Sam Darnold's 4 interceptions. So if they play a cleaner game, this could be interesting. Like, they have a good shot still of getting that victory and getting their revenge in that second matchup in Seattle. So I'm eager to see how that plays out. I'm excited for that matchup in a couple weeks. Rams Seahawks, remember it, put on the calendars. It's awesome. Greg Miller, and Jigba is a beast. Yeah, he's a beast. He didn't have the stats this game because, again, the Rams did play a really, really awesome game coverage-wise and pressure-wise. But, yeah, again, he would get Jonathan Taylor and him. They would get my MVP votes if I had to vote. I think they deserve it. But we know that MVP is more of a quarterback award now. It is not more. It is a quarterback award now, which is unfortunate. I don't think that's right. But they would get my votes in. And then Greg Miller also says, I don't believe the Rams can beat the Seahawks in Seattle. I think they can, but I would give the advantage to the Seahawks. If I'm a Seahawks fan, right? If I was a Seahawks fan, it's concerning knowing that Darnold is still capable of putting together performances like that, right? That's obviously concerning, especially the long big picture in the playoffs. Can you rely on him? Like, if you ask me now, no, like, he's not someone you want to rely on to come through in the playoffs, because like that self-destruct button to turn the ball over on any given play is still there, and that worries me. But at the same time, to be that close and know your defense was able to put together that type of performance and keep that team in it and almost come away with the win. That is, to me, that's the silver lining. That's if you're looking from a half glass full perspective, that's what I take away from it. So I wouldn't be too worried yet. If I was a Seahawks fan, I would be encouraged by what I saw. And again, if the coaches can wise up and start giving Kenneth Walker a little bit more carries, I think that will improve the running game. Now, the other thing is Gray Zabel did leave from injury after the Kenneth Walker scored his touchdown. He left with an injury. I did see a report that it's not supposed to be too serious. I didn't see an official diagnosis and time frame of when he'll be out. I think the status was day to day. So if it's day to day, that's phenomenal news for them because Gray Zabel has been fantastic for that offensive line. They need him. Without Gray Zabel, the offensive line again, I think is going to struggle. So Zabel being in there and not being seriously hurt is a huge sigh of relief for the Seahawks. So yeah, that's my breakdown of the Seahawks game. Awesome stuff. The other thing I wanted to break down, and if you've been watching the show when it's been on, and if you watch our season preview show or season prediction show, I gave off, I rambled a bunch of running back hot takes before the season, and one of them was that Sean Tucker would take over as the RB2 in Tampa Bay over Rachaad White. If you've been noticing and keeping track of that back for their past 3 games, that's steadily been the case. Tucker has started to see more and more touches for the Bucs, and that his snap count and touches have been increasing steadily. And in this game, he finally was able to break out. Now he had a similar breakout game last year. I think it was against the Saints, where he had a monster game. So we all know he's capable of these type of performances. But yeah, he against the Bills, we do have a suspect run defense, but against the Bills, he once again was the leading rusher for the Bucs. I think this is a third straight game now. He's the leading rusher for the Bucs. 19 carries for 106 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 catches for 34 yards and a touchdown. Awesome stuff. We don't know yet when Bucky or Irving is going to be back. His injuries have been so odd to keep track of. They didn't put him on IR. I believe it's 2 separate injuries, and I believe they started his practice window, or he returned to practice on a limited basis, something like that. Don't quote me. So there's a potential that he's back this week, but they don't even know for sure. They're not even 100% sure if he's going to be back this week. So if that's the case again, expect more of Sean Tucker going forward. So let's get into some clips I wanted to highlight of Sean Tucker. The first one is hold on. Before we get to that, I didn't see this. Greg says, Chucks, I'm with you about Kenneth Walker. Charbonnet is really good too. Dan Bruce. Yeah, they're both that combo is really good. But I've said ad nauseum, Walker is the better running back, and that's not a knock on Charbonnet, but he's a better running back, and his explosiveness and ability to create, that really helps spark the offense. And the Seahawks run game is not good right now, but you need to have, I think if you had Kenneth Walker in there more, you'd see more stability. You'd see more, not stability, I'll use a different word. You'd have more of a benefit because he's able to create explosive plays, right? Charbonnet is more of the sustainer, yes. He's able to get consistent positive yards, but he's not going to break off as many explosive plays. And I think that for this offense, they need more of that. They need the explosive run game, and that's what Kenneth Walker could bring them. But they don't. For some reason, they don't. They keep it as a 50-50, and it's annoying to see. I don't like it, but yeah. All right, so Sean Tucker. I got to some clips. This is the 43-yard touchdown run here. And on here, they're going to run a counter, right? So you're going to have pullers for the Bucs. I believe it's the left guard and left tackle. Yeah, left guard and left tackle. They're going to pull here. And the only thing I really wanted to show on this is freaking Sean Tucker's speed. He is as you can see, his frame, like he is not a small running back. He is densely built. Let me look up his dimensions real quick. Um, he's listed at on Pro Football Reference, and like, these are like these heights and weights vary, but he's listed at 5'10", 205, right? So he's not a small back, and you can see the muscle, like his build is really really dense. So he has power to him, but he's fast. He can break off, and you can see once he gets into that third level, no one's catching him. He kills pursuit angles, and that speed really is that's part of what sets him apart from Rachaad White, is that speed, that breakaway speed and explosiveness. So again, counter run, you see the Bucks left guard and left tackle pull. Sean Tucker is here, and just again from the second level to the third level, once he's able to get that runway, he's out, he's gone. So that breakaway speed is phenomenal. The second one, his second touchdown of the game, 6-yard touchdown. Now, what I want you to see here, this is again another counter run. This time you're going to see, I believe that's the center and left tackle. Let me just double check. Yeah, center and left tackle are going to pull, right? Now, Tristan Wirfs is right here. He's pulling. He's like the lead for Sean Tucker. What I want you to see, you can see here, the camera angle, some running backs will have this tendency, okay, like I need to get vertical. All right, I need to get vertical. I need to get north-south and get in the end zone right now. But what you can't see on off camera, or what you can't see right now, is there's another defender off camera. I like how Sean Tucker still keeps a pretty much a horizontal path here. He's going to keep threatening to the outside, and you'll see why that's important. Being able to threaten to the outside, that defender, I think that's number 47, because Tucker threatens the outside with his path here, that defender is drawn to that outside lane. So because of that, that helps set up this blocker. And then once that block is established, that's when Tucker is able to get north-south and get into the end zone. So again, it's good. It's a good job by Sean Tucker to be able to stay horizontal, to set up that block by his wide receiver, and then get north-south once that block is established. So awesome job. Last one I want to point out, this was the catch and run, right? So this was, you're going to see Sean Tucker on a wheel route. Let me reverse it. So you see him highlighted as a target. Now keep an eye on this second level linebacker. I believe that's Matt Milano. And so Matt Milano's here, and he has essentially he's in man coverage against Sean Tucker. So that's his responsibility. He gets caught a little bit in that traffic. You see how he pauses because of all that traffic that's set up here. You have those crossers because they're running mesh, right? So the Bucks running mesh here, crossing patterns, and that kind of gets Milano hesitating, and that slight hesitation, he's out of position right away. Easy there. And then what did I say about Sean Tucker's breakaway speed in open space? Once he's here, DB doesn't have a chance. So again, that speed by Sean Tucker, once he's in open space, when you give him that alleyway, there's the catch, boom, that acceleration and that speed, he's gone, touchdown. So awesome stuff. 28-yard touchdown. Sean Tucker, keep an eye on him. I think that when it comes to fantasy, if you're in those redraft leagues and stuff like that, definitely, I'm pretty sure someone added him already. I played Dynasty, and I have him in, I think, either 2 or 3 leagues, and I'm in 4 Dynasty leagues, and I have him. I stashed him in 2 of them, right? I think 2 of them. So yeah, it's I am so glad I hang on to his stock, because I've been saying he's better than Rachaad White. He's better than Rachaad White. And it was only a matter of time. And even last year, the coaches were saying, we got to get Tucker the football more. We got to get Tucker the football more. And I'm glad they're finally seeing that. Pete Evans chimes in. Yeah, he says, brother, Xfinity didn't have it in the cards for me to join you tonight. He says, on the touchdown catch, I think it's more good play design and bad angle by the backer. Yeah, but Milano to the bad angle. But I think Tucker's speed was a nice sight. Absolutely. If he's even leaving. If he's even, he's leaving. Yep, absolutely. All right, so good stuff for that's the clips I have for today for the film room. Let's get to no huddle, right? And it sucks. I really wanted to talk to Pete about this more, but I had several, a few items on no huddle that I wanted to discuss. First thing I want to discuss is with the Eagles beating the Lions. Guess who's in first place in the NFC North? It's the Chicago Bears. How that's so crazy. Now, will they be able to hang on to that first place spot? I don't know. I doubt it. We'll see. But we haven't talked about this person much, I think, on the show. So I now want to discuss it. And I wanted to discuss it more with Pete next week if he's on. But yeah, Caleb Williams. Can I just say, because already last year, there were so many people calling him a bust. So many people calling him a bust and saying he sucks. He was never not worth it. And you know that there are people out there that just didn't want to. They were already out on him before he was drafted because of silly reasons. And then talk about this pre-draft, how these narratives and these reports to get out of hand and something gets blown up and fans start to believe it, and it's just ridiculous. The things I was hearing about Caleb Williams before the draft about how he's not a great leader, he's not a good teammate, he's more worried about being Hollywood than he is about being a football player or NFL quarterback. Like the stuff people were saying, and then feeling like they already had confirmation bias after this rookie year when he had horrible coaching. I think we can absolutely see that now. Like Matt Eberflus and that coaching staff, they did no favors to Caleb Williams and that team. Insert Ben Johnson, fantastic offensive mind. We all know that, and it was obvious that it was going to take a little bit, right? There were reports about them clashing and they're not a fit, blah blah blah, but he's a type of coach that was going to be really good for Caleb because he was going to be on Caleb, be hard on him, but then get him to hone his skills as a quarterback in the pocket, refine certain things about playing on time, right? And as the season has gone on, now we're like 11 weeks through, we've seen that development, guys. We've seen growth in Caleb Williams. It's fantastic. Now, is it perfect? No, it's far from perfect. I think the main thing that Caleb Williams has to work on still is accuracy. He still has these sprays of inaccuracy every once in a while where he just misses his receiver. So 100%, he still has to work on that. And can you get more accurate as a passer? Yes. Is it a given? No, but you can. We've seen Josh Allen get more accurate as a passer. We've seen Jalen Hurts get more accurate as a passer. A lot of it when it comes to accuracy is timing, mechanics, right? So as long as you work on your mechanics, being able to throw with a good base, the right pad level, and then also the timing with your receivers is important too. Like, for example, we talk about Jalen Hurts throwing deep and how he's one of the best deep ball throwers. Does Jalen Hurts have a cannon for an arm? No. But what makes him a great deep ball thrower is the fact that the timing, he knows the timing of when to throw certain things or when to let go of the ball and where to place it, right? So that's what helps him be one of the better deep ball throwers. And, that's just scratching the surface. So Caleb Williams has to get better at with his accuracy, 100%. But what I want to point out is that you can see Caleb really start to put things together as a quarterback in the pocket and being able to make plays. Like we talked about, one of the things that people really gravitated toward him about when he was a prospect is, at his time at USC, like his ability to create plays, right, off schedule. And he's really starting to do that. Like there are throws where I think you even go back to the week before against the Giants where it's just like, man, like there are not a lot of quarterbacks that can make those type of throws. And the ones that can, you're talking about the elites, right? You're talking about the true elite quarterbacks who can make these type of throws. You're talking about like like the way the ball, if you watch him, the way the ball comes off of his hand, it's like it shoots out of a cannon. The arm talent that Caleb Williams has is so impressive. But I think the most impressive thing that we've seen Caleb Williams improve on this year is his sack avoidance. Like last year, he was so bad at taking sacks, right? But this year, I wish I'm sorry I don't have the statistics, the exact statistics on me, but he's one of the league leaders at sack avoidance rate, and you can see that. You watch him, his ability to avoid sacks and get out of pressure looks is phenomenal. He's so talented at doing that, and his escapability from the pocket to get outside and avoid pressure, avoid the sacks are also it's awesome. It's so good right now. So you see development. I love to see that development from year 1 to year 2, and even from week 1 to week 11. Amazing stuff. And it just goes to show again, like, I understand why people were put off because like when it comes to pre-draft hype, yeah, the media and certain people will go too far. Like when it comes to like the scouting process, I do not use the term generational to describe a prospect anymore. I don't. I used it once when I talked about Saquon, and I don't want to use it ever again because it's when you put generational tag on a prospect, it's not fair to them. Like it puts unneeded pressure on them, and like it doesn't even take into account where they end up. So like it's not fair. So I understood why people were kind of put off and saying like we need to like they didn't like calling Caleb Williams a generational prospect right away. And I agree with that sentiment. Like I'm like, don't call him generational. He's his own thing. Like let him be his own prospect. Like the talent is there, just let him be. So I understand that. But automatically writing him off because of pre-draft hype that Caleb is not he's mainly not responsible for. You know, like he's not the one that's putting generational on himself. That's draft analysts, that's media. They're doing that. So blaming him and writing him off because of what other people say about him, that's not fair. That's not being objective or truthful. So I think that the narratives, people need to, if they want to be fair and objective, they need to really look at like, okay, why are you so hard on Caleb? And earlier this year, you can see it. Like people were, the minute he threw an interception, people were like, yeah, he sucks. Like I see it all over on social media, and it annoys me. So I don't like that. And I think that we need to be more patient in general when it comes to quarterback prospects. They don't have. Tom Brady talked about this. He's talked about it a lot, actually, where quarterbacks don't get the opportunity anymore to really develop. And it starts at the college level. At the collegiate level, you have all the the NILs have led to so much transfers, and the transfer portal and all that. You don't have often a college quarterback staying in a program to learn an offense, to learn an NFL offense. And then when they get to the league, already behind the 8 ball in that regard, they get to the league and it's just like, okay, you get 4 years to turn a bad program or a bad team organization who's likely picking you because they're a bad organization. So you go to a bad place or a bad situation, and you have 4 years to turn everything around. There's no development process. So I think there needs to be more patience when it comes to quarterbacks. Like jumping to conclusions about a quarterback after year 1 or even just year 2, even in year 2 is it's not fair to them, and it's not it's not good analysis. So, uh, let's see. Get to the chat. Greg Meyer says, I was impressed with Caleb Williams in Oklahoma when I first saw him come into the scene. I have to admit that Caleb Williams was impressive at USC too, as well as Oklahoma. Yeah, he was super impressive. There's a reason why he was first overall. Yeah. Pete says his decision making and scrambling has been on display through 10 games. Absolutely has. Greg says Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams may very well turn the culture and narrative around in Chicago. Yeah, I believe so. I love what Ben Johnson has been able to do so far with that Bears. So yeah, awesome stuff. From Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson. So the other thing for No Huddle I wanted to get at, or there's two other. You know what? I want to save the one for next. You know what? Do I really want to get into this? Pete, you're in the chat. Greg, you're in the chat. Do I really want to give my 2 cents about the Jalen Hurts stuff and the report that Derek Gunn, but the quotes and the report by Derek Gunn? Let me know. I said already the other day on Twitter that I don't have the energy to get into this. Pete, if you were on, I was going to talk about it so that we can bounce back and forth on it. You're not on, so I don't know if I have the energy to really get into it. I don't know. Greg says go for it. It's just so much to it. And I won't say so much, but like, I obviously have strong opinions one way or another. So like, I guess I'll get into it, right? So if you haven't heard, Derek Gunn, well-respected reporter, insider for the Eagles. He's retired, but he's still, doing his thing, in terms of, being on media. Pete does say overblown. Gunner knew what he was doing, throwing the info out there. So like, he's well respected, right? Derek Gunn is well respected, and I want to be careful of my words and what I say, because I do respect Derek Gunn. I don't think he's one of the bad ones. Just like how we say Jalen Hurts, as great as he is, isn't above criticism, I think that the same can be said for Derek Gunn. As much as we respect him and his work, it's not without criticism. And I'm going to point out, I think it was 2024. Was it 2024? I'm going to try to look it up here. So pardon me, let me bring this up because I think I saved it. I think I saved what he said. And he had said, yeah, remember back in, was it 2022? Derek Gunn came out with a quote that says, one person said, let me give you a scenario of what he went through in one day of practice. It was a 10-play scenario. He had 3 picks, 4 incompletions, and 3 sacks. So I don't know if any of you remember Derek Gunn's report on that a couple years ago. And that was before, I believe before the 2022 season. And we all know the great season that Jalen Hurts had that year. And A.J. Brown, soon after that, came out and said, it's all fake. The practice stuff is all fake, blah, blah, blah. Lane came out and supported the same thing when it came to those reports. Lane, he pretty much quote tweeted A.J. Brown's tweet and, with a preach emoji. So there have been times where Derek Gunn has said something about Jalen Hurts that was overblown. All right. So I'll say it again. We can respect him, but he's not, as great as he is, he's not without criticism himself. Again, that goes for both Derek Gunn as a reporter and Jalen Hurts as a quarterback. Okay. Do I think that Jalen Hurts, because Derek Gunn's quotes, he talked about I have the transcript here, and I'll read it off. It says, those things that get discussed on film and during practice, those things that are talked about among the quarterback coach, the offensive coordinator, the head coach, it has been constantly discussed all season long. Yet, when they transition to the field on a football game, he plays, quote unquote, his game. Not the game the coaches want him to play. He plays his game. I don't think you can get out of that mode at this. I don't think you can get out of that mode at this particular point. I think it's what we're going to have to watch all season long is him playing his game. You look at a lot of quarterbacks, they're going to sling it. They're going to try to throw it through the eye of a needle. Sometimes you just have to take that chance. That's not his game. That's why he stands back there. A lot of the time he's patting the ball, and it throws the timing of the offense off. The rhythm is thrown off. They can't get him out of it. It's frustrating in a lot of ways to the coaching staff and to the players. Extremely frustrating to the players because when they look at the film the next day or a few days later, they see what's available out there. What should have happened and didn't happen. That's frustrating to them as well. The other part was I'm just basically telling you there's a lot of people in that organization that are frustrated with the quarterback situation right now, but the quarterback understands he has them over a barrel. This is almost Carson Wentz part 2. They're not going to eat this kind of money yet. I think it's so overblown. I think that are there plays where Jalen Hurts is coming out, or are there plays on film where Jalen Hurts is missing stuff? Yes, absolutely. I've pointed them out. We've mentioned Jalen Hurts' struggles overall. Overall, his struggles against zone coverage this year. I've pointed out stuff that Jalen Hurts has improved on. I've also pointed out games where Jalen Hurts has struggled and not played well. So I am fully aware of the games and the plays where Jalen Hurts, I'd say, if you want to say at fault for, sure. I'm aware of those plays where he needed to be better, where it's like it's on him. Should have read the field better. He should have made a better throw, or he missed someone open. Yes, I'm fully aware. Okay, I don't need to reiterate, as the show, our show, me and Pete's show, our show title says, "Film Don't Lie." I watched the film of every Eagles game, so I'm clear as day. And if you have followed me, if you follow me on social media, if you've watched me on shows, right, whether it be this show, Eagles Talk, Birds of a Feather, whatever, you know I am not shy to criticize Jalen Hurts. Okay, I'm one of the most objective people when it comes to Jalen Hurts. I truly believe that. I will not get as high on him as a lot of fans. I will not get nearly as low on him as a lot of doubters will. I am somewhere in the middle. I believe I am objective when it comes to Jalen Hurts. I know his flaws. I've seen them. I've documented them on social media, on shows all the time. I don't know how you can watch the film of this season and say that that Jalen Hurts is the main issue. I just don't know how you can say that. There have been games where Jalen Hurts has played phenomenal and been one of the main reasons why we won the game. Phenomenal. Like, what game was it? Where was the Vikings game? He was playing awesome. Awesome. I think overall this season, I'd say that Jalen Hurts has had a really good year. And has it been as consistent as like 2022? No. Even some spurts of 2023, no, it hasn't been as consistent. But when I'm looking at the film, like, I'm not looking at stats only. You guys know that. There are aspects of Jalen Hurts' game that he's improved on. I said going into the season, I want to see him, one, throw to the middle of the field more. Two, I want to see him when he scrambles outside the pocket. I want him to let loose. I want him to throw downfield when he's outside the pocket. He's improved on that. Is it still at the point where I want him to be? No. but he's looked better this year than he ever has in previous years. So there are areas of improvement that he has improved on. I don't know how you watch the film and say that he's been like, and again, it's the way that Derek Gunn worded it. It's the way the words that he decided to use. This tone of voice. When you watch the clip, and you can search for it, you watch the clip and you look at the tone of voice he's using. He's making it seem like Hurts is the main issue. Like the one word he used is extremely frustrating to the players. You know what else could qualify as extremely frustrating? The play of the offensive line. You know what could qualify as extremely frustrating? Seeing AJ Brown not run full speed on all of his routes. I love AJ Brown. You know what could be qualified also as extremely frustrating is seeing our backup tight ends do a horrible job at blocking. So, and you know what is astronomically frustrating is seeing the play calling being mind-numbingly bad for most of the games this year. Mind-numbingly bad. I am no expert, okay? I'm a fan that continues to try to learn the game. I am no expert whatsoever. I would never label myself as one. I'm just a passionate fan that is trying to learn the game as I go, right? If I can see flaws in the play calling myself, and I'm a nobody, that's a bad thing. And I don't want to spend the next 15 minutes rambling on what the issues are when it comes to play calling. You know, I could go on for 15 plus minutes talking in depth about all the issues. You know, predictable run plays. Constantly using, I just tweeted it out yesterday, constantly using 12 and 13 personnel in the run game when our backup tight ends cannot block. I've said it since last year when we lost to the Commanders that our backup tight ends are a huge problem as blockers. So continuing to see heavy usage of 12 and 13 personnel, continuing to see Grant Calcaterra being used as a blocker as much as he has been is extremely frustrating. Against the Lions, you know what's extremely frustrating? When the Lions play a lot of man coverage, they're playing press man. The corners are playing press man against our wide receivers, and you decide to run hitch route after hitch route after hitch route. One of the worst routes you can call or have your receivers run against press man is a hitch route. Did you see any separation from our wide receivers? No. Why? Because they were running a bunch of hitch routes that are not good at getting open against press man. I could go on and on. So I don't see how you can look at the film and say that Jalen Hurts is the main problem, or hint or allude that Jalen Hurts is the main problem. I one of my friends on Twitter says it best. I'm going to take the side of the quarterback who had an MVP type year in 2022 and who has had really good years through several different coordinators, offensive coordinators, almost won every year that he's been with the Eagles. And the side of the quarterback who has played in 2 Super Bowls and been the best quarterback in both games. I believe that quarterback. I will take that quarterback side over the side of, hey, it's the offensive coordinator and the coaches aren't the problem. And I'm trying to be fair to, because I like Sirianni a lot. I think Coach Sirianni does a lot of things great as a head coach. So my frustrations are mainly with Kevin Patullo because he's the offensive coordinator. He's the one calling plays. It has to be better. So those are my thoughts. I went 15 minutes giving my thoughts on the Derek Gunn comments about Jalen Hurts. I think they're overblown. I think they're way overblown. I think, yes, there are frustrations at times with plays from Jalen Hurts, but that's nothing out of the ordinary. That's every week. That's every quarterback. You're not telling me that. Are you going to tell me that you can watch the tape of Patrick Mahomes and their loss to the Broncos, and that team isn't, or Patrick Mahomes himself isn't going to be frustrated with how he played? Come on. So, yeah, Greg Miller says, I believe Jordan Mailata believes it's nonsense as well. Pete Evans, for an 8-2 team who just beat two of the better teams in the conference in less than a week. He says, yeah, overblown. Gunnar knew what he was doing, throwing that info out there. AJ's slowed down explanation from Sunday was more concerning than anything else he's done. Greg says, I couldn't have said any better, Chucks, about Jalen and the Eagles' offensive issues. I couldn't agree more, Chucks, about Jalen Hurts. The adversity this man has had to endure is mind-boggling. Yeah. All right. So that's what I have to say. The other thing I want to talk about was the Chiefs. I hinted at Patrick Mahomes. I'll save that for next week. We'll talk about the Chiefs next week because they have another important game coming up. They're playing the Colts. So that's a big game. We'll see what happens that game, and we'll discuss. I will discuss with Pete the Kansas City Chiefs next week. For those who tune in live, I am sorry you had to deal with me talking for an hour and 6 minutes. I deeply apologize for that. But I'm glad you tuned in and watched Film Don't Lie. Thank you to the sponsor of the show, Alonzi Travel. Remember, if you're planning or thinking about a vacation to Disney, Universal, or wherever, like if you have a vacation in mind and you have questions, reach out to me. Get a quote, and I'll let you know what I can do for you. I'll be glad to help you. So thank you again to all of you listening in. For myself, for my co-host who's not here, but he's in the chat, Mr. OGP P. Evans. For the rest of us at A2D Radio, make sure you catch all the other shows the rest of the week on A2D Radio. But until then, we'll see you next week. I don't know if we'll be live again next week, but if not, you can catch the show being broadcast on Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock. Yeah. So until then, go Birds. It's Dallas week. Kelly Green too. Go Birds. Beat Dallas. Peace out.